Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Winning Edge Sports Podcast. I'm Patrick, and I'm joined by Ai-Dan and Ben. Guys, how are we?
I'm well.
Yeah,
How are
good.
you, Pat?
Yeah, I'm good. Now, we're actually kind of like going national here. The three of us are in different states. Ai-Dan, you're in Victoria. Ben, you're in New South Wales, and I'm in the sunny Gold Coast here. But
Okay, no to show off
that's
now.
not going to stop us. That's not going to stop us because we're joined by a special guest today. She's a current AFLW midfielder. She wears the number 20 and the navy blue. Lily Goss, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. I'm jealous that you
all
guys are
good.
elsewhere.
Well, I mean, I'm still in Melbourne, okay?
Thanks for coming on.
Just making us all jealous with the blue skies and everything.
That's right. At least it's blue here today as well. Just,
That's
7
what I mean.
degrees. That's all right.
Yeah, it's like 7.
Now, well, thanks for coming on. As a Carlton fan myself, I'm actually quite happy to have you on. But kind of to get started, we'll actually ask you, obviously Olympics are going on right now. Have you been watching the Olympics so far?
I actually haven't been watching much of it, sadly. I've been watching a lot of highlights or the day after results because the time zone has really got me. But it's great to watch. I've been looking forward to about 3 months until I found out that it would be in the middle of the night. But I'm doing as much as I can to support the green and gold when I can. But yeah, it's so good to watch.
Yeah. Now, if you were to have be another athlete or play another sport apart from football that was in the Olympics, what would it be?
We're actually talking about this in the club the other day because all of us were like, oh, how can we get to the Olympics when we retire? A few of us thought it'd be great to be an Aussie Sevens player, but then we realized how fit and strong those girls are, and it's so impressive. But
it's crazy. I've been watching the games here, and
it's so impressive.
It's all right.
We
just have AFL 9s in Brisbane Olympic Games. AFL 9s will be
one day. Bring it in, seriously. I reckon European handball would be something would all suit us quite well, actually. But I'm yet to watch any of the sort, but we'll see.
Anyway, we'll get into the actual questions that we got. So, Lily, take us back to your childhood. What was it like growing up, and did you play any other sports or?
I mean, I had a pretty good childhood. My brother and I, who's a year older than me, were very active kids growing up. Sport was a big part of our childhood and our primary school and senior school. I didn't really play footy at all when I was growing up. I just watched my brother play. So I was very much a netball and basketballer. Kind of did anything I could. You know what primary school's like. You go to inter-school sport and you just do whatever you can with the boys as much as you can, playing soccer in the schoolyards. And then once I got into high school, my school, luckily enough, had a football team. So I played from year 9 to 12 in that just one team all the time. We only had 4 games a year, so sometimes you can't really call it a proper competition to a degree because you play 4 games and that's that. But I played netball all the way till I got drafted, and then I had to stop. But other than that, it was just as whatever I could play and whoever had a team.
Did you follow a footy team growing up?
I was a massive Collingwood fan.
Yes.
Still very controversial in my household because my family is still very much Collingwood.
And you're Carlton, so big rivalry there.
Yes, and this week in particular, it's going to be very challenging. But I was a big Collingwood fan. It's still sometimes hard to shake it when they're playing well or reigning premiers, but my joy for Carlton now is quite a bit more.
Did you have a favourite player growing up?
I would say still one of my favourite players, though, Scotty Pendlebury. I loved watching him play growing up. He was just so silky and so good to watch, and kind of still is, but just his skills and his leadership was so inspiring to me.
Talk to us about your pathway.
Pathway?
Well, like Q Rovers?
Yeah. So I didn't really play. I only played a few games for Q. And it was when I was in year 12, I decided to play when I had the time. It was quite hard to play a full season netball and studies. And because there weren't that many female teams, like the talent was a lot more limited, but when you had a group of friends that were keen to play, it was actually quite fun. So I played a few matches with Q Rovers when I was 17, and then
You know, love for the Q comments.
Q Cobbets. No, well,
No,
my brother, well,
I
not
was
really.
saying,
There was
there's
like
two
that
Q teams.
joy of,
Yeah,
and then there seemed to be a really, really strong rivalry that I wasn't aware
Yeah.
of until I was a part of it. And then I was like, okay, can't be friends
Yeah.
with them. But it was, quite the divide. But my brother played for Hawthorn Sits, and they didn't have a
Yep.
women's team, but I always wanted to play for them if they ever got one, and they did eventually. But when I finished school, I went to Methodist Ladies College, and a few of my teammates and my old coach wanted to make or kind of have a pathway for girls post school that wasn't really VFL level or just senior football. So we created a partnership with Old Scotch Football Club and built one of their senior women's programs. So I played there for 3 or 4 years, which was so much fun. Like, you're starting from scratch, you're playing senior football. There's a really good club community vibe. I'm sure you guys all know what it's like, but when you're in those community footy clubs, it's so much fun. And girls come from everywhere. You create great friendships. So I was there for, I think, 3-4 years. And then that's when I tried to get into VFL after that, because I had a few friends who tried that pathway and loved it. So that's when I tried to make the jump to VFL.
So tell us about your experience to the draft combine, like obviously, and then getting into the Carlton Footy Club. Like, what was the lead up to your drafting crop like when you, were about to get drafted? Was like, talk us through like what you had to go through at the draft combine.
I would say it was pretty low key for me. Funnily enough, it wasn't entirely on my radar whilst I was playing the AFLW. Like, I just loved playing at a higher level. And it wasn't really something that I thought, at the end of this is where I'll go. I'll give it a red hot crack. So when the VFL season finished, a few of my teammates and coaches said, you may as well put your hat in the ring. There's like no harm in that process. Like, you're with a group of girls, you'll either get touched on the shoulder and you'll have some interviews, or you won't, or you'll give it a go and you might get picked up. It can't hurt you. And then because I was with Carlton, I spoke to Carlton during that period and they seemed keen, or they wanted to keep that connection. So I was very happy to go through that process with them. And then funnily enough, I actually went to the US for 3.5 weeks during that period. I'd had that trip planned for a long time with my family. So I was in the US when the draft was on. And I definitely didn't expect that I would be selected, but because I put my hat in the ring, watched it at, I think, 2 a.m. in the morning with my family. Name got called out and I was just gobsmacked. Like, didn't expect it at all. Was super excited though, like, because I was at the club that brought me in from a VFLW program. I thought it can only really be better from here, being a part of the same club and the same journey, knowing quite a few of the people that have been around, coaching wise, playing wise. So it made it a lot more exciting than nerve-wracking for me. And I think you feel so lucky that your first time going in, you got selected and have been seen for the skills you produced at Icon. Like, I don't know, I felt very, very privileged in that moment because it hadn't been on my mind for so long, but it paid off. So I don't know, it was crazy. It was a whirlwind.
And so tell us about, so obviously you finished runner-up in the BNF in 2022. Like, what was about that year that made you super consistent? And did you have patterns during your training that just made you consistent, or do you think it was just an all-round good year for the club?
I think it was actually quite a challenging year for the club. Like, I don't think we necessarily did that well, like on the scoreboard. Like, we didn't win a crazy amount of games, but we had a really young, raw team that just loved the game. I did get injured for a month there with a knee injury, I believe. So I kind of had a bit of a chunk missing out of my season. But it was also one of those funny years where everyone was coming out of COVID. So it was our first season back, playing a full season, full club, being able to have access to the club. We didn't have any contact with the AFLW girls at that point. Like, they were still in that COVID kind of bubble. So every VFLW team was playing their VFLW players and developing their young athletes. There was less connection also with I think back then it was the TAC Cup or the Coates League. So you definitely had just girls who were really working at a top age level to break that kind of that draft barrier, which was fun and exciting because you had everyone like me just wanting to play high quality football and coming from a senior football league. But yeah, based on finishing second, I think it was just so much fun for me. And I was also quite surprised at how well I went at that level. I was very, at the start, hesitant, and I was quite nervous about being selected in the first place. I think as everyone is when you're coming into a higher environment, you kind of question, am I good enough? And then once you get on that role and you realize you kind of fit in, it becomes a lot more exciting, a lot more fun. And you do take those risks that you're willing to take to try and advance your footy.
Speaking of the next level, what was the turning point of getting to that next level? Like, what made you think you were ready to go from Scotch to Carlton VFL and now AFLW?
It's hard because I don't necessarily think it came from me. I think I really had to listen to some people outside of the club and outside who could see in. Like I was very, I think I was lacking a bit of confidence in that area because it is quite a big jump. And I think you can still see that today, that there is still a bit of a jump in VFLW and AFLW. So for me to think from going from 1 year to the next within 12 months, I'd be in an AFLW program, I didn't really see that happening. But then listening to people who are in that professional environment who knew what it would take, they were the biggest drivers for me. And it built confidence within me to be like, no, if you put your mind to this, you can do it. Like if you work hard enough, if you put in the right hours, if you kind of build that professional development within yourself, you'll be okay. And I eventually got to that place at the end of the VFLW season where I knew that if I put enough effort in, I'll be fine. And also being older, like because I wasn't coming as an 18-year-old into the draft, I was 22 and I kind of developed, I went to uni, I had a job, I was living at a home, like I had all those responsibilities for myself.
Life skills. Exactly.
And I think those are the things that made me feel more confident eventually in that. Like I could make that decision on my own and I wouldn't be reliant on that happening for me to kind of survive in the footy world. So that helped a lot.
Did you find there was any current or former teammates that, or current AFLW players that you look to as like a bit of an inspiration to base your game off, you reckon?
I think definitely within the Carlton AFLW program, like our midfield is awesome. Like I love playing with Abby McKay, Mimi Hill, Keely Shara. Yeah. I think we're all very individual in how we play, but if I could have one aspect of their best game, I'd absolutely take it. Like Mim's speed, her power, Keely's just ferociousness, and Abby's poise. Like all of those things I try and bring in, but also try and be my own player because we need all those things for us to work as a team. But then when you look at other clubs like Charlie Rowbottom and Bree Davey, like the power athletes that they are, I could only dream to be as powerful and as strong as those girls. But I hopefully one day that will come in my own career. Like I work a lot with our S&C to try and build that part of my game, even though I can't try and be fast, speedy, agile, but you can't all be those things. But those are definitely girls that I aspire to be like.
Yeah. What do you do in your free time? Like how important is it to have that free time for your mental
health? I talk a lot about this with the club because they think I don't have enough free time. I work part-time out of footy and then I also study full-time. All of those I love, which is why I choose to do it. But they kind of think I need more rest in my life. But I kind of find that I need to be switched on in some capacity to really enjoy the things I do. So I'm studying teaching and work at a high school. So for me, that is something like, and I get a lot of pleasure out of doing that. But when I am just at home chilling or going for walks, watching movies, all that stuff, I do find time to do that, which I try and stress on them. But I do spend a lot of my time at work and just hanging out with my colleagues because it brings me joy. And I do switch off a lot from footy because we never talk footy in those environments.
Yeah, it sounds like you're like a team environment.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry about.
So kind of heading to like post career and that, like, do you kind of like hope to get yourself kind of like into a coaching aspect, maybe media, when your career is eventually over?
Definitely. So I do a lot of coaching at my job. So at the school, I work a
Yep.
lot with girls' sport and doing coaching. And I love coaching youth. I think it's very empowering and you get a lot out of it, seeing those girls come through and help them in ways that they
Yep.
like otherwise, I guess, have to pay for or seek elsewhere. So I do love doing that. I'm not sure if I would take that to a professional aspect in the footy world. I think it's a very different and unique aspect of football. Like I look at our coaches, I look at the men's coaches, and I think it is such a unique thing to be able to do, and so much pressure. And I don't know, the minds they have on them are incredible, the way they can read the game and push it to a new level. But I'm not sure I would be ready for that at the moment.
Yeah.
Media, I don't know. Media, I have to tap into a bit more, hopefully, see how well I go about it, if it's something I'd be interested in. Haven't had the opportunities just yet to go into that field. And I think there are very few and limited kind of spots in that realm at the moment. So breaking through is
Yeah.
quite a hard thing. So I think you got to see how can you bring something unique to that table if I do go into that area. So I need to, see how that would go.
The growth of female sport over the last 5 years, like I've seen it as a coach, it's phenomenal. Like, what are your thoughts on the last 5 years, and then going into the future, the next 10 years? What do you see for the female sport, not just for Australia but the whole world in general?
Well, you're so right. The growth of it is incredible. Like it's grown exponentially since AFLW started, and B, kind of the world has seen women athletes build, and organizations have put the money into it, and the franchises and sponsorships have gotten on board. Like even speaking about the Olympics now, like the nature of those athletes and watching them is just so amazing. And like with the Tillies and the Australian cricket team, the women's team, like all those platforms, I think have only driven the spectators and the fans to get on board. So I think that's happened in the last 5 to 7 years now, and that's been kind of 0 to 100 in those times. So in the next 5 to 10 years, I think it's just going to explode, and hopefully at some point it will be on par with the men, or like the way people value women's sport will be on par with the men. But I think time will only tell, but it's definitely going the right direction.
It is definitely going up.
Yeah.
I can agree with that.
Yeah.
What's kind of like the preseason like at the moment for you? Like it's, I think, like an exact month until the next AFLW season kicks off. Like what's the whole process at the moment like?
Well, so our pre-seasons look a bit different than the past because we've been kind of coming into the club since that March, April period anyway, just because you kind of get that itch for footy. So we all come in, start training, start developing just together in our off days. And then so the last 3 months have been pretty smooth sailing in terms of transition, because we've been able to do a lot more match simulation, match play, structural kind of development in our own game, which we worked a lot on last year. Instead of just like running laps and doing conditioning, we kind of built that into our off season more, so we can come in strong now. And we're 2 weeks away from our first pracky match with Melbourne. So a lot of what we're doing is fine details, getting things right, getting our structure right, getting our kind of also dynamic right within the team, which the coaches are working a lot on. But we've built the structural so strong from last season to this season that it's just building on that, really.
Yeah. Do you do much work with the men's AFL team?
Not so much at the moment, because they're obviously getting into the nitty-gritty end of their season, and we don't overlap a whole lot based on kind of the facilities availability, but we do have the ability to go into their trainings and watch their trainings and sit in on meetings, and we're also definitely allowed to touch base with their coaches or their physical S&C staff and health and fitness staff if we've got any questions. Like those things definitely overlap. And same with our nutritionist. Like she works the men's program, we work really tight with them, but playing wise, we have chats, we get along really well, we cross paths, we touch base on things that work well for them, but not so much program to program.
Yeah. So just wrapping up the episode now, we've asked our other guests this question. Do you have a inspirational or motivational quote for any young, aspiring female athletes?
It's funny, I wouldn't call it crazy inspirational or motivational, but we were lucky enough to have Luke Longley and Scottie Pippen come speak to us earlier this year. And one of the things that stuck with me and I think is so important for young athletes he always said, you always got to find the joy and fun in what you do. And I thought that's so true of the fact that from a young age, if you're so determined to get somewhere in something, don't lose the fun of it. Like even for us in this professional environment, how stressful and demanding it can be, we love it because we have so much fun and joy in what we do. And the people we play with and the coaches we learn from, they bring that every day. So I thought, if they're thinking about going somewhere in life and sport, don't lose the joy.
Yeah. So Lily, we're actually about to get this Zoom off. I think they're about to kick us off, but we just want to thank you for coming on, taking your time out of your day and having a time to chat with us. So thank you.
No, thank you so much. Thanks for having me, guys. Really appreciate it. Enjoy your holidays.
Yeah, you too.
Pat.
See ya.
Bye.
Thank you for watching another episode of the Winning Edge Sports Podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at the Winning Edge Sports Podcast and follow us on Spotify and YouTube at the Winning Edge Sports Podcast. Thank you.